All right, honey. Well, today's interview, we've got Kelly Baader, our good friend.
Yes, and I'm so excited. And guess where she's from?
Well, like originally, like where she was born or where
Where
she
she is
lived?
now.
Where she is now, Switzerland.
And I've been wanting to go back to Switzerland, honey.
Yes, an excuse to go visit Switzerland, to
And
go visit Kelly. Right,
Yes.
exactly. So, yeah, Kelly she's got an amazing story. She really overcame some significant childhood trauma and just raising up the ranks in, major corporations as well as her own business. She's not, number one, she kind of grew up, well, not just growing up, but she's originally from Asia. English is her second language. You'll hear her, she's got an accent, a visible accent. And yet she spent most of her career outside of Asia, Switzerland, US, and all that. And coming up the ranks in a male-dominated industry, becoming one of the first female executives in this one company, which it was so rare to have a female that they didn't have a women's bathroom on that executive suite floor.
I can't even imagine that.
So she gets all the way up to she's up in the C-suite, literally, and yet there's no women's bathroom, so she has to go downstairs to go to the women's bathroom. And so, just think about that.
I hope she had plenty of time to find
Right.
it, go down the stairs.
Yeah, and so surviving, overcoming significant childhood trauma, rising up the ranks in a male-dominated industry, and then of course when she went into business on her own, there's all of that. And then when she started her highly rated podcast, Christian CEO, actually a very major thought leader really discouraged her from doing it because he said that your English isn't good.
That and speaking, getting in front of people and speaking. That's hard enough itself when you have someone encouraging you, let alone someone discouraging you.
Yeah, and especially when it's someone that's significant, someone you kind of look up to, right? And you value their opinion, and they're saying, yeah, you probably shouldn't do it because of this. So I think this is going to be a great interview of, how you overcome some of those things that some of the things are beyond your control, some of it's in your control, and then you're hearing people that you're supposed to trust, yet have been some sources of some of the greatest pain or discouragement. And so how do you deal with that?
I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
Yeah, so Kelly is an entrepreneur, podcaster of, like I said, the top-ranked podcast, Christian CEO, as well as an Amazon bestseller author, A Little Girl Called Grace, that talks about her story that we alluded to, about the childhood trauma that she overcame. And so I think we're just looking forward to this. And so, yeah, I guess let's take it away, right?
Yes.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's let her in. Welcome to the Power Up Your Marriage and Business podcast. We're your hosts, Robert and Kaylee Fukui. I know we're supposed to say we created this podcast for you, but we really created this for us. Because one of the power struggles we witnessed growing up and now dealing with in the present is balancing the needs of the business with priorities of marriage. Does this sound familiar?
As children of entrepreneurs, we're often on the receiving end of that struggle. Parents worked so hard to provide that they did not have time for us. We realized it wasn't their fault. They did only what they knew. But not wanting to repeat the past, we've been intentional about building a business that we run as opposed to it running us.
Every day we fight to keep the priorities the priority: faith, family, and finance, or the business. Some think it's impossible, but we say it's possible. You just need to challenge the false belief that a successful business only comes at the sacrifice of your family. It doesn't have to happen that way, and we know we're not the only couple to think this way and achieve it.
If you listen to some of our past episodes and tune in for future ones, you will hear from some amazing marriage experts and entrepreneur couples that have been able to build a thriving marriage and prosperous business at the same time.
So that's why we created this podcast, to be in the front row and hear from others that have gone before us. And from time to time, we'll share what has worked for us as well. But we know there's more to learn and want to take you along for the ride with us. We may never get it perfect, but with intention, we can all build a thriving marriage and prosperous business. So thank you for listening. Sit back, get comfortable, and let's power up your marriage and business. So here we are with Kelly Baader. Right, Kelly?
Wow, you pronounced my last name correctly. Exactly. My husband must be very happy, you know?
Well, with my last name,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm very sensitive to how you pronounce people's names. So I did my research, and it cracked me up because on your website and all that, there's several recordings. There's at least 2 recordings of how you pronounce your last name, and you're very intentional about how you pronounce your last name. So I want to make sure.
At least hers isn't dangerous, though, like ours.
Yeah. But Kelly, welcome to the show. And I know you're in Switzerland, so thank you for taking the time to be with us today or tonight.
Yeah, we're so excited. And you know what this means, honey? I want to go to Switzerland.
Yay! Come on over.
So, Kelly, we're both married to a Swiss. She's a Swiss Miss.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My family in Switzerland.
Actually, I don't know if your husband is Swiss, but you live in Switzerland, so it just came to mind that.
Yeah,
he is.
No, he is Swiss.
Okay. Yeah. So hey, we're both married to Swiss.
Yes, how fun.
Yeah, so, great minds think alike.
Yeah, that's why we like each other so much. So,
exactly.
So Kelly, we already did the introduction. Obviously, a lot of great credentials, and so I want to get into this. And when I looked at your story, and when we looked at your story, one of the things that struck us was, well, one, what a story, and we'll get into that. But there must have been some self-doubt as you started your business, even though you had seems like a successful corporate career. But all entrepreneurs, I think, if they're honest, have some form of self-doubt or even imposter syndrome as you're starting the business. And not even just to start, sometimes it just lasts with you throughout, right? I mean, it depends. When things are going well, then you're fine. But then when business isn't doing so well, like, it will happen, then I think that imposter syndrome and that self-doubt creeps in. So talk to us about some of the biggest forms of self-doubt you've had or had to overcome when you started the business and even now or currently.
Well, what came to mind right now, this moment, I mean, there are so many moments. And just like you say, actually, the feeling of, am I enough to do this? Or do I have what it takes? And imposter syndrome, all those things, is not just when I got started. It's all the way. And even until now, when the moment like, oh, we got to start new things. And then you start to step into another area of uncharted water. Then you're like, really? And I think one of those moments, what came to mind right now, is since we are in podcast, right? It just I just thought of podcast, how I got started podcast. And I think my podcast is already nearly 7 years old. But 7 years ago, it wasn't my idea to start a podcast. It was God's idea. I'm personal faith, and I know that, some of your audience may not be, but just bear with me. It's a story. Okay. It's a fun story, I'm telling you. So 7, 8 years ago, we as a family relocate back to Switzerland. My husband is Swiss. Before that, we were relocating all over the place about the 17, 18 years. And so like 7, 8 years ago, we moved back to Switzerland. And when I moved back, I spent the first year to settle down the family, because when we live out there, our main communication language is English, because we live in USA over 10 years and all other places. And we were thinking, okay, it's about time to get our kids back home. And so the first year, we live in Zurich. So it's a German part of the Switzerland, right? And therefore, you need to learn German. You need to learn Swiss German. Swiss German itself is a language. Mm-hmm. And then they also teach French in the class. So I remember first year, you just try to, when the kids home, we have all different kind of dictionary, like German, English, French, and all kind of apps, just to survive for first year. Second year starting, I felt led to attend a business conference in Manchester, UK. When we live in US, it's very easy, well, a whole lot easier to attend a lot of high quality, great conferences. But at that time, not so many in Europe, right? So when I saw this conference, and in my heart, I feel like God said, hey, Katie, I want you to go to the conference. And I look at the speaker's name. I don't know many of them. I did not know many of them, but I did know few, the names. Okay. I knew so that the keynote speaker was Dan Miller, right? The 48 days to the work you love, right? That's his thing, right? So I thought, oh, okay. I say this is gonna be kind of interesting. And then before I attend, about 2-3 weeks before that, I went to Dan Miller's Facebook page, right, just to kind of understand what's going on with him. And then I saw a post. Is not from him, but from his wife, Joanne Miller. And the lovely Joanne was just launched a book. She's an artist with one of their granddaughters. So I thought, wow, this is very neat, right? They had 3 generations of entrepreneurs. And that wasn't a prayer or anything. Just in my heart, I thought that would be really fun to be able to speak to Joanne about how did she do this? Raise up the 3 generations of entrepreneur. And but then I right away have a thought, say, yeah, they're living all the way in US, and although he gonna come over to speak, not so sure, right? She will come. So anyhow, also 2-3 weeks before the event, I was a part of a very well-known business coach, a part of his mastermind group, and he shall remain nameless because almost everybody know him. And so one of the bonus from that program is he will call individual to check with us, kind of give us tips and something like that. So it was my turn. He called me up and then he said, oh, so Katie, what's up? What is your, next step and anything new? And I say, I kind of feel that maybe I should start a podcast. So I mentioned to him, and he say, you mean Chinese podcast, right? And I say, of course not, because most of my audience, 90% are in US, UK, Australia, wherever English speaking, right? And he say, listen, you are a big girl. You are a businesswoman. So let me tell you this. As American, I won't tune in your podcast because you don't have a native English accent, right? Oh. So he told me that. So that's 3 weeks before I went to this conference. Now I arrived at the conference and I then all of a sudden figure out that most of the attendees, about 300-ish people, they have a podcast. They are podcasters. Actually, the conference name is New Media Europe, right? And even quote unquote worse, they have a beautiful British accent, right? So talking about imposter syndrome, right? So for me, it's like, oh, so this is a huge confirmation for me, like I can surely forget about the podcast, right? Because I would say 85% of attendees, they are local, they are British. So now, Dan Miller finished his speaking. He has 5 minutes mic time to everybody, right? And then everybody, raise up a hand to ask about business question. Then I was the last one, raise up a hand. And I just asked a question about, hey, just really wondering, I saw join that post on your Facebook page, really wondering how did you guys able to raise up the 3 generation of entrepreneurs? And he looked at me, he kind of smiled, he said, oh, I wish more people ask that kind of questions. And then he said, I can do this better for you. I will let my wife answer your question. So we did not know, actually nobody knew that the lovely Joanne now walked all the way from the back of the conference hall to all the way to the front, right? And be honest with you guys, whatever they were saying, I wasn't listening because in my head, I was listening. I will have another conversation going on with God, kind of going like this. God said, "Ye little faith, you don't think I'll be able to grab Joanne from US to here to answer your question, is it?"
Yeah.
Right? So I was kind of inside my head, have this conversation going on, and have tears running on my face, and so really I did not remember a word what they were saying. So bad, really. So after that was coffee break. Then we went to the, everybody going coffee, and the people queue up, want to, take picture with Dan and Joanne, right? For those of you guys that you may be not know them, you might be know Michael Haya, those people, they are the friends, they're buddies. So I was standing in distance. I did not even dare to get closer to them because in my head, it's still ringing that conversation, right? I feel like there's something wrong with this picture. However, after a while, they weigh me over. And I look around, they say, "You." And I walk toward to them, and then say, "Kelly, right?" I said, "Yes." Because when you have a mic, you need to say your name, right? So he remembered. He said, "What a great question." I said, "Thank you." I was thinking, please don't ask me that. What did you answer? Because I really don't remember a word. And Joanne said, "So what is your podcast?" Right? Because most of people has podcasts there, right? So Joanne asked, "What is your podcast?" And I say, "I don't have a podcast and not really plan to have one." I don't know what happened, as if somebody put an ear muff on their ears, like they did not hear what I just said. Because the next question then from his mouth, he said, "So what will be the podcast about?" I was like, did I mean, I did say I don't have a question. I did say I don't have a show, right? And then Joanne Eddie said, "Yeah, well, what would that be about?" And they are more senior in age, so I really respect them, so I feel like I was pushed to a corner. Are you guys still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because the video got frozen a bit.
Okay.
So I feel like I was pushed to the corner, and I just had to answer that question. I say, if ever there is a podcast, I think will be something for Christian entrepreneurs and give them practical tips and some biblical principles.
Oh, I don't know what happened. Wow,
Right at the
okay.
good spot.
I know, right?
Kelly,
We're like,
and I'm like, wait.
I don't know what happened.
You guys got frozen again. It's interesting.
I don't know what happened, but we lost it, and then now we're back up.
Yeah, pray for a connection.
We'll obviously we can edit it out, but picking back up, or last time I heard was just the conversation with Joanna, right? They asked you what the podcast is about, and then you started brainstorming, I guess.
Yeah, and you have a last part of recording, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, do you guys want to check? Are you guys in Wi-Fi?
No, we're hardwired in. So I'm not
that's
sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay.
So, wanted to repeat a little bit of it, or no?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat back a little bit of story, so in case you guys need to cut together.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So as if somebody put an ear muff on their ears, that they did not hear what I just said about I don't have a podcast. Now, Joanne say, "Well, what would that be?" And because they are more senior in age than me, so I don't know, it's an Asian thing, I just feel like I was forced to the corner that I should answer that question. And I just say, if ever there will be a podcast, I think will be something for Christian entrepreneurs, show them the biblical principle and practical marketing strategies, and so on, and so on. And Dan say, that sounds fantastic. Do you need some help? And I was like, for any new things, I can use all the help, you know. And Joanne said, okay, then how about this? Since we are here, you know, we can come on your show. Do you want us to come on your show? And I feel like this come to a point like, I still try to digest everything, right? Kind of try to react and digest at the same time. I kind of like, I say I don't have a show. You ask me what's my show for, and now you want to come to my show while people queue up to try to get these two influencers to their show. They couldn't get it, and now I don't have a show, and you want to come on my show, right? And but here's the thing: I was so bad. I was trying to run like a Jonah, the Jonah in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Like I try to say, because remember, 3 weeks before, that coach told me, you can forget about podcast, right?
Yeah.
It came from an authoritative voice, right? And now I arrived, I heard all these beautiful British accent podcasters. So put me in a place of, who are you? You dare to talk about podcast, right? So I say, I try to run. So I say, well, how about this way? Since you guys are traveling now in the UK, we can wait until after you go back to USA, and then we can find out the schedule thing, and you know, then we schedule. I was thinking that is a very smart way to get out of this. And I always say, God is very sneaky. When he's up to something, that he will make sure to get it done, one way or the other. And so what happened is Joanne said, no. Listen, that's the woman's part come out, I think. She said, like, let's get it done. Since we are here, okay? Just find a quiet corner. And then she flipped out her phone and she said, tomorrow 9 o'clock. We are free before we head out for tour. Okay? Oh. Tomorrow 9 to 10-ish there. And then she gave me a phone number. She said, after you figure out the place to record, just text us.
Wow.
Right? Wow. And then they bye-bye. They walk away. And then I was like an idiot standing in the middle of the lobby there. I was still thinking, what did just happen?
Wow.
What did just happen? Now, guys, talking about no clue do anything, right? So since I did not plan to do podcasts, guess what? I know zero, nada thing about how to record people's voice somehow to become a podcast episode. I had zero clue, right? So now I was thinking, what do I do then? And then here is another setup, right? A day before, I arrived earlier. I arrived a day before the conference. I passed by the conference room and I saw the AV team. They were working, set up, right? And because my former corporate life was from hospitality industry, I can resonate with those behind the scene people. So I always go to say hi and, you know, if I can do anything. I pass by and I say, oh, you guys busy? I say, hey, I gotta go out to grab lunch. Do you guys have time? And they say, no, we really have to set this up. I said, do you mind I grab some lunch? You know, so you guys at least can eat something. They say, oh, that would be awesome. So I grabbed some lunch, bless them. That's it. Did not think anything about it. Right? So now we are in today. Now I'm a like silly person standing in the lobby, did not know how to record things. Guess who I go? I walked to the AV team and they were happy to see me. We greet each other. and they asked me, say, "What's up, Kelly?" I say, "I have a small issue." And they say, "What?" And I say, "Well, Dan Miller is coming to my podcast." And there were three big men. They were laughing so loud. They were laughing. They were nearly fell off their chair. Why? Because that same morning, when they asked me, say, "Oh, Kelly, you know what? It's your podcast." I told them I don't have one, and I won't plan to have one. And so when I said Dan Miller is coming on my show, and they were like, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah. How to explain what happened? But here is the thing. I don't know how to record." And they asked me, "What do you have?" I say, "I only have my laptop. That's it." You know. And so, because the day before that launch, right, the launch that I blessed them, and I guess somehow that build a connection. And they say, "Yeah, no problem." So they hook me up the mics and stuff like that. They crash course told me which button to push, in the garage band and all that. And so I literally have that YouTube video in my YouTube channel, that Dan Miller and me, we scoosh on the 2 chair in my small hotel room. John Miller was sitting on my bed.
Oh.
Okay, because we had 2 small microphones, and we are shared among 3 people. So, and I used my iPhone to record the process, because I told myself, no matter, this is the only episode I will ever have. I would just record it, and later I will just kind of record it to show that, what God has done for the whole thing. So now we did not stop there. After finishing the recording, I was sweating so bad. Because, and I remember, actually, I don't remember the season now, but surely it's not summer. But I was sweating so bad because I was so nervous. I never recall a thing in my life. After finish, and then say, "Oh, that was a good content." I say, "Yeah, thank you." And they say, "So do you need some more guests?"
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I say, "I guess so."
Wow.
And he told me, very simple. He gave me the name, who to reach out, and he said a couple of names, and he said, "Just write this email. Tell them that Miller was on your show." And he suggests that you reach out to them, that they should be on your show too.
Wow.
Wow.
And he is a mentor of Cleveland Craft. He is friends of Chris Tucker and whole 9 yard stuff. So literally, I just typed the same email, change the name, And that is why, if you go back to my podcast, the first, 50 episode, people ask me, all of a sudden, there's a new podcast in the scene, new podcaster in the scene. And then people ask, "Who are you? How the earth you can get this person on your show?"
Wow.
I say, "Oh, it's hard to explain. You know what?" I just point toward to the sky, right? So that is how I started my podcast.
Wow.
7 years later, we are top ranking podcast in
Yay!
category.
Congratulations.
That is amazing.
Oh, I love that story.
So we talk about the imposter syndrome. Yes, I still did it with huge imposter syndrome, as you now know the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm thinking, even after you interviewed Don Miller and his wife, Dan Miller, sorry, and his wife, you still had these big people coming up behind him. And I'm thinking, you had to be nervous and have some of that, maybe possibly the imposter syndrome there. Like, oh my gosh, now what am I going to ask these guys? How am I going to sound?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how you guys did your first couple episodes. I think that's one of the one of the season in my life, I cannot pray more.
Yeah.
I was like, now I had this big name, just like you say. I visit the website, I try to Google everything, and I try to come out the script, like a word to word script, just to make sure maybe I don't say anything wrong. Those days I used Skype. Those days the Zoom wasn't that popular. So I use Skype, and I make sure the camera is right, the button, which button is right, the microphone hook right. I mean, it's nerve-wracking every single episode.
Yeah, sure.
And then were you concerned about your English? Or did you not, you're so nervous about everything else, you didn't even think about that?
Well, still, I was so afraid that what if they really don't understand what I'm saying, which is pretty much a lie. I have an accent, but that doesn't mean that people don't understand me. You see? So yes, on the top of all the things, and there's the negative voice behind me sometimes still say, are you sure you want to do this? Right? Those what have been suggested, and then thought back to those beautiful British podcasters' voice, right?
Yeah.
I think from the beginning, I did not even dare to listen to my own podcast. I feel like it's a little bit like when first time we shoot a video of ourselves, right? It's like, oh my goodness, is everything wrong, right? The makeup is wrong, the hair is wrong, the clothes is wrong, the words come out of my mouth is wrong. Every single thing is wrong, right? Yeah. It's like because we try to compare. Oftentimes, we try to compare our first step to other people's 100th step,
Yeah.
and that's often happened.
Yeah. So I guess it goes to who do you listen to and what do you listen to? Because, you had this authority that says you shouldn't do the podcast. But then all of a sudden you had Dan Miller and Joanna just say, oh, you have a podcast, basically.
They weren't going to take that no for an answer, Kelly.
So
I think it's just I think God really know how to deal with every single one of us, right? He knew in my heart and my mind that I'm not doing this, and of course, that's not everything in my life happened that way. A lot of time just very settled way. But the podcasting, he seems to pretty insist on it. And so it's very interesting that later on when people really enjoy your podcast and talk about, wow, what's a great idea, the podcast and whatever, any accomplishment, that everything look good out there. They asked me, so how did you get started your podcast? And as if that I had this brilliant idea, to start a podcast, to evaluate all that. It's not. It wasn't my idea, and I was quote unquote forced to get started.
Yeah.
But
so how do you decide like who to listen to? Because whenever we come up with an idea for business or personal things, and you share that idea with somebody, and sometimes you're going to get some negative reactions. How do you decide who do you listen to and not?
When I got asked this question, which is not the first time, and I always say, I think part of the good thing about you have a little bit age, right? So I'm age 55 right now. And I think after you walk through life a little bit, you kind of figure out like, how should I say this? Meaning that my younger self will care a whole lot more about what other people think of me. Yeah. Right? And now I'm 55, I'm thinking, whatever, you can think whatever about me. That's not so important. compared with what God asked me to do. And it sounds cheesy, but actually the reason why I can say even just this sentence is based on the life experience, is not because it just sounds good, right? I had learned many hard lessons when I listen to human versus if I listen to what God say, let's say God's wisdom, right? And even at the time, sometimes doesn't make human logical, kind of doesn't look very logical in the human beings thinking, right? And I think entrepreneurship, a lot of time, we had to make decisions. Also doesn't look like, people often look at us like, oh, you guys are weird, right? I mean, for the non-entrepreneurs people, for the people they are not wired for as entrepreneurs, right? There's not better or worse. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying some people are wired to be entrepreneurs. Some people are not, right? And people, when the people they are not wired as entrepreneurs, then sometimes they see how we make decision. They were like, you guys are crazy, right? How can you make that kind of decision? So I think as you start to accumulate the life experience, you also will learn a lot of lessons, that what kind of voice, what kind of people, friends, loved ones, what kind of voice you will allow them to come in to influence you, what kind of voice is not. You shouldn't.
Yeah. And how have you started to evaluate like what voices you listen to? I mean, God number one, but also even in the human context, how did you decide? Because even people, I'm 55 too, so and I can totally resonate.
Brother.
Yeah, I can totally resonate with that. It's like you're not the same as you were in 20 or 30s, but still, we sometimes will sometimes listen to the wrong voice, because we're not perfect. So
Right.
and even for the younger folks, how would you help them decide who to listen to or determine who to listen to?
Okay, so as a personal faith, right? I have to be true to myself, right? So I only can give you guys the answer that I can give. Okay, as a personal faith, since I have the foundation of I follow the wisdom of God, right? So let's say the people surround me, that they can give me all different kind of insights, their opinion, their thoughts, their perspectives, and I will, happily take it. But then I will take it together, and then I will put it against the principle and wisdom and value of God. See whether it's online or not, right? That's me, right?
Yeah.
And even the Bible says you should see counsel. You should see wisdom from other people, right?
Yeah.
And let's just say this way. Again, after a while, you kind of know that who you can trust, who you don't, right? And I have mentors in my life, right? I respect what they say to me, and or let's say when I wanna, let's just take an example. Actually, my mentor often say this. So my mentor, she is in Singapore. She's from Singapore. She's Singaporean. Her business level is every month they need $2 million to break even.
Wow.
Okay, so that's the level of the business. Okay, so she has all different kind of investment, property investment, stock investment, all different kind of investment. And oftentimes people ask her, say, how did you make the decision of the investment? Because she somehow managed through the years of economy ups and downs, she always made money. And oftentimes when people buy, she's selling. Often people selling, she's buying. She say, well, I still take in the insights and perspective from the experts, for example, from bankers, from investors, from economists, all that. But in the end of the day, I take it in and then I lay in front of God's feet. And because she has a relationship with God, so then she can hear God's voice, right? And then so then she will ask God, say, what do you want me to do? Because our job is to steward the resource that God has put in our hand.
Yeah.
And especially nowadays, when it comes to the internet, when it comes to online, there are so many different kind of voices.
Yeah.
And well, now we even have AI thing going on, right? And for the AI thing, for example, I just told my clients, it's so simple. AI tools surely is awesome, but the result will be only as good as how much your brilliance you're willing to put in. And you need to know how to put in. So creative thinking skill is more important than ever than before.
Yeah, that's good. So in this last moment, I know you look at success in your business probably differently than a lot of people. And so I'd love to hear how you define success in your business.
Well, I think success in business, since we're in business, we need to make money. I think this is, you cannot deny that, right? And I think each single field have its own measurement sticks. So what do I mean is, I think maybe some people heard of this analogy called 7 mountains. Basically 7 areas, right? We are in the area of business. Some people are in the area of education or government or media and arts, that type of thing, okay? So when it comes to in the field of business, right? The measurement stick in this field, it's about, how much revenue you generate and how much impact you have created. And the interesting thing is how much impact you can create actually is linked to how much money you have made. So what do I mean is, because until your customers or your clients pay you their money, exchange what you have to offer, they will not experience the transformation that you have promised, right? I can, walk into the Apple store and look at all the iPhones all day long. But until I pay them my money, get the phone home and start to use it, I will never be able to experience the convenience or whatever the function the phone can bring to me. So you ask me, say, how did I let's say talk about success? I think yes, it's based on how much impact you have created, but that also linked to how much money you have made.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Kelly, thanks so much, and thanks for enduring the technical challenges.
Yes, this has been great.
My goodness, I never had this kind of stuff. I'm going to call our internet service. But Kelly Baader, it's been great to have you. Of course, everyone, she's got a Top Ranks podcast, Christian CEO. Check that out. And an Amazon bestseller, A Little Girl Called Grace. We really didn't get into your backstory, which I wanted to get into, but the stories you shared was definitely impactful, and so we love that. But we'll have the links in our show notes. But any other way that Kelly, how you want people to get in contact with you or follow you?
Everywhere is Kelly Baader, and so it's very simple. Thanks for my husband's German last name, and the last name is Baader. And if you guys can go to YouTube channel, you can actually have 5 minutes video. You can know my 55-year story in 5 minutes.
Wow. All right.
It's great too.
55 and 5. All right. Well, thank you, Kelly, for being on the show. Thank you for listening. And I know this was impactful. So please share this with another entrepreneur that needs to hear the story, because, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, who do you listen to? The voices in your head, the voices that you listen to are so important as we navigate business and life. So please share this and leave a review.
Yes.
Right? So thanks again.
Thank you.
Until next week, God bless. Thank you for listening to the Power Up Your Marriage and Business podcast. If you found this episode to be valuable, please leave a rating and share it with an entrepreneur couple you know.
Yes, and remember to hit the subscribe button so that you'll get all of our latest episodes, and visit our website, Power Couples by Design, to access a variety of free resources to help your marriage and business, like our weekly videos and on-demand webinars. And don't forget to download our free 8-step guide that you can find on our homepage to help your marriage and business thrive.
We're here to help you build a thriving marriage and a prosperous business. God bless your marriage and business. See you next week.